Joining me now is Sky News contributor Evelyn Ray and Deputy Executive Director of the Institute for Public Affairs, Daniel Weil. Great to see you both. Daniel, can I start with you? I couldn't believe it when I read this today. Labor's trying to push electric vehicles on all of us, and Chris Bowen is completely obsessed with electric vehicles. He's up there in question time again today, trying to answer questions about how utes are not going to cost more money when new fuel policies are brought in. But the Commonwealth's gone out and purchased expensive BMWs, BMW electric vehicles, priced between $130,000 and $150,000. They're all in Canberra and Adelaide to drive pollies around. ASEAN's on in Melbourne next week. They've instructed the Commonwealth drivers to drive down the Hume Highway and across from Adelaide in these BMW iX SUVs to ferry all the delegates at ASEAN around Melbourne. And they're poring over maps, Daniel, to work out where the charging stations are.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether they're going to make the journey, Steve, to be honest with you, but I think it is just another example of how out of touch Australia's political class are. I mean, why they're driving around in $150,000 cars. Of course, you've got Australians doing it tough with the cost of living. And Chris Bowen's answers to these simple questions just don't stack up. Of course, if you're going to put more regulation and effectively a tax on utility vehicles and SUVs and petrol and diesel vehicles, they're going to go up in price. And it's just another example of the day-to-day consequences of net zero. This is what it looks like in action. It's real, tangible consequences to the lives of mainstream Australians, whether it's the electrification and cutting off gas in Victoria, whether it's the farmlands being covered in wind turbines and solar panels, or whether it's the increase in the cost of your basic amenities and your vehicles. This is what life will look like under net zero, and unfortunately, it's only going to get worse until we stop the rollout of renewables and get in baseload power.
Evelyn, I know a little bit about cars, and I'm going to talk on the program tomorrow night to an expert who actually did an experiment driving an electric car from Melbourne to Sydney and a petrol car from Melbourne to Sydney, exactly the same models, and it took about 3 times as long for the electric vehicle to get there. Why? I mean, we're the taxpayers. If they're going to go and buy new cars for the car fleet and they want them to be electric, you can buy a cheap MG electric car or one made in Korea. The politicians so precious that they don't want to sit in the back of an MG.
Look, it's all part of their virtue signal, but unfortunately they've missed the boat with this one with their fancy schmancy BMW cars. Next it'll be a Lamborghini EV or a Ferrari, who knows, but they'll have an excuse and they'll try and make it happen for them. But they can't give up on the idea of EVs, because giving up on the idea would breach their apostasy laws. And until we all collectively say no, they're going to continue to live in their delusion and force us to live in it with them. That study that you mentioned, not only did it take them 25% extra to travel from Sydney to Melbourne in an electric car, it also cost them more. It was $140 for petrol and it was $210 to charge the thing. So it's going to cost Australians more. And right now, Australians don't want to hear it and they're not going to buy it. You know what is going to save the planet? Not EV cars, but what will save, or is a good step in saving the planet, is mocking these fools into silence who are trying to force us into this dystopian nightmare.